Good afternoon, all. Thank you so much for joining me on this webinar. I thank you for the time that you've taken out of your busy schedule, and also today being a weekend and we all want to spend the weekend at home with family. I am very grateful that you agreed to join me on this. This is a journey we've just begun, and my focus is especially on the resident magistrates first, because this is our base, this is our foundation. I'm offering myself for this position, not because I will work a miracle, and I'm not going to just stamp about what I can do, because again, without you, I would not be able to do anything. It is your mandate that I am going to walk around with. It is our problems that I am going to walk around with, push where necessary, politely advocate where necessary, lobby where necessary, so that then our issues are looked at seriously by the rest of the people at the JSC, the rest of the commissioners. I'm not going to go there overnight and say, oh, I'm going to do this and you will get this. I say that. And this is about servant leadership. I am a servant leader. I would want you to send me and tell me, Stella, go do this, go say this for us. We have this problem. How do we go about it? That is what I am all about. So I'd like us to have an interactive session. We can talk, just feel free, and let's get on with it. Thank you very much.
There are rumors, so to speak.
Yes.
That you are a project. And such rumors would make a voter like me fearful.
Yes.
That you are a project and that you might not be an independent commissioner who will speak for us, but will be advancing interests of other people or another person whom I do not want to mention.
Yes.
Kindly address us on this aspect. Thank you.
Okay, Pascal, to your first question, and thank you for being very honest. Now, Pascal, we all work for the judiciary. Let me just put it that way. I am not a project of anyone. I have embraced SJT like any of us, any judicial officer. I work like any other judicial officer. And I'm now vying for this position because, as I said earlier, there are ideals I stand for. There are things I hold close to my heart. And some of these things are not things that I need to be told by anyone to do or say so that I will do as per whatever anyone would want. I am not anyone's project. I am just reaching out to you as an independent person, Stella Atambo, seeking for your vote and a chance to represent you, and humbly so. I hope I have answered that one, Pascal.
Our salaries are nothing to write home about.
Yes.
Yes, we accepted the work, but when you compare it with other government institutions, with the people who are at our level,
yes,
our salaries are way too low.
Yes.
And this gives us a feeling of despair sometimes,
yes,
considering the work we do. What would you do as a commissioner singularly, and also how would you go about this issue, noting that even JSC itself has appealed a decision where KMJA had tried to pursue this matter of salary increment for us? Thank you.
Now, there was a ruling that was passed some time back. So the issue of salaries has been sorted out in the sense that there's now a committee that's looking into it. And I can tell you that very confidently. And this committee is advice further. Singularly as a commissioner or as your commissioner, if you get to elect me to that position, I will not even advocate, push the committee to implement the same, because I am aware that that ruling and that it was allowed to approve. So the committee is just supposed to look into it and then give the advice on the same.
All right, mine is on what channel of communication are we going to have with you?
Yes.
Yes, once you are there in the JSC. As a representative,
Yes.
we need to have, a clear way of reaching you
Yes.
for any issues arising.
Yes.
Yes.
Nelly, if you look at my manifesto,
Yes.
first bit of it is accessibility.
Yes.
And along with accessibility,
Mm-hmm.
servant leadership. Because if you choose me and you put me there to represent your interests,
Yes.
my duty to make sure that I am accessible to you, you are able to reach me, and that there's a clear way that even if I am not available, you're able to reach me, not through proxy, but me so that I'm able to address whatever issues arise. When I'm talking about accessibility, I'm talking about a leader who comes down to the grassroots. I'm talking about a leader who, if you called me today, you can be sure I will receive your call or return your call and get concerned about the issue you're raising or maybe something you have at hand to discuss. For me, the channel of communication would be directly to me. That would be my first way of doing it.
I wanted to get your views on how you're going to address the issue of opaque representation,
Yes.
where an association or a body sends someone to represent them, and then that person never gets back to their constituents to inform them of what issues concerning them are being addressed at whatever body they've been sent to represent.
Yes.
And then related to that, I wanted to know how you're going to maintain a working relationship with KMJ, given that you are essentially a representative from that association.
Yes.
So I'd like to know how you intend to keep the avenues for communication with your constituents open. Then the last one is the issue of training opportunities and capacity building.
Yes.
For those of us who come from other organizations, we know that there are usually very many training opportunities, either locally or internationally. But within the judiciary, you hardly hear a magistrate has gotten a chance to maybe travel for an anti-corruption training in New York or something. So we'd like to know whether these chances are normally available, and how will you ensure that those training opportunities are shared equally amongst judges and magistrates?
Yes. Stella K raised the issue of opaque representation. That is a body sending a representative who does not give feedback from the people who sent her. What is very dear to me as I campaign for this post is the aspect of accessibility. If I am accessible to the people I represent, they send me to the JSC. I take their agenda or their issues to the JSC. I don't see why I should not be able to give a feedback. I don't see why I should not come back and tell you, this is what you sent me to do. This is how far I have gone. And this is probably what is pending. I am accountable to you. You're electing me because I should come back and tell you, yes, you sent me. This is what I have done. This is what I have failed to do. And maybe then you send me back and say, let us then do it. This accountability is one of the values I hold again very dear to my heart, because if I am accessible, then I should be able to show you, Stella and the rest, you sent me, this is what I have done. This is what I have failed to do. That includes transparency. If I come back to you and tell you, this is what we discussed about this issue, this was the outcome, then I don't see, because if you send me, how do I go and I just keep quiet? My manifesto is very clear, and it's not just a manifesto, it's who I am, that accountability, that transparency. So Stella, I'm hoping that I have answered that bit. And the relationship with KMJA, we are all members of KMJA, and ordinarily JSC and KMJA, or the representative that you send there, should be able to work hand in hand with KMJA, and whatever is of relevance to JSC should clearly and in an accountable manner be dealt with. And so for me, KMJA and JSC should be seamless to the extent of the issues that come up from time to time. Let me tell you, Stella, the power I hold belongs to all of you. Once you elect me to that position, and I pray that that happens, then you will be able to see what servant leadership is all about, what servitude is, and with humility, because it's not about chest thumping. And as I said earlier, you know, we are talking about the JSC, it's a commission. I am just one vote. I can only persuade. And with the power that you would have given me, of course, I would persuade with quite a bit of conviction that yes, I am here and I need to do this. And I have people I am accountable to. Come back and tell you that this is what has happened. And for a leader, for me, I believe a leader must be accountable, transparent. A leader must have the charisma. But besides all that, a leader must be very humble. I'm not going there to talk for myself. I'm being sent to talk for a group of people who, and that group is you people. It is ourselves. Stella, I hope I've answered you. Then there was the aspect of training, capacity building. Yes, we have trainings from time to time. And perhaps what we need to know is that there's what we call bonding as well. We have the aspect of furthering your spirit. We have the aspect of these trainings, and these trainings are there. I think we need to gel more with, you know, the power of information, because the other day I was talking to somebody and they were telling me about an institution in the US that is taking in people from NIS, people from the judiciary, people from the police service. And when this person went there, he was the only one from Kenya, and all the other countries had a group comprising of people from the judiciary, people from their police service, sorry. I think it's just about information, sharing information about among ourselves. And then also for those maybe who want to further their studies, we have the paid study leave, and we have the aspect of bonding, where the judiciary holds your job for you as you train. And then when you come back, you negotiate with them on how you're going to give back or how long you'd stay. And again, on whether you would now look for greener pastures. But the aspect of chance to travel and go, yes, those chances are there. It's just about knowing about them and then maybe applying for them, and maybe just for us to have a transparent way of doing it as it's been done in the past. Thank you very much, Stella, Kane, Nelly. I hope I have answered you, but if any of our colleagues has anything to add, kindly feel free to do so.
My issue was the attacks from the bar.
Yes.
Sometimes you may find an advocate, especially senior ones.
Yes.
When he goes before my colleague, he's respectful.
Yes.
But when he comes before you, and you know, you cannot like, you have to hold your cool. You cannot like shout in court, but it's so embarrassing. Now my question is, what are the avenues? Whom are we supposed to talk to? Is it the LSK chair, the HOS, or who do you talk to? Because it's a bit embarrassing.
Yes. Remember, Gloria, we are told about our temperament as judicial officers, and that no matter how hard someone tries to vex you, you should not fall into that trap. But sometimes, yes, it is true. Sometimes it's too much. And for me, my take would be that before you even take it up with the LSK, sometimes when you see that the session is getting out of hand, and perhaps you're also losing your cool, your head of station can take it up. And maybe even just a colleague, you know, a colleague who perhaps would sit down and sit two parties down and talk to them, not necessarily head of station, but it's also good you bring it up to your head of station's attention.
I'm just wondering on the question of mortgages, whether that has been addressed, whether the waiting period of 2-3 years before we can access mortgages, whether that question has been touched. And
No,
how
nobody has
perhaps
touched
you
on
will
it.
help champion. Yes, kindly, if you may also address that. Meanwhile, I'd like to thank you. Some of us have practiced before you, several in Nairobi and in Kiambu. Soft
Yes.
but firm. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Honorable Sitati. Thank you so much. We have a loans committee in place. And in this loans committee, we are all jostling for this facility. Now, we don't have, as magistrates, we don't have a representative on the loans committee to take care of our interests. If we got a representative on that committee, they'll just canvass our issues, our requests, and our applications so that we're given priority. I'm aware that on this loans committee, the judges have a representative. We don't. And so we end up jostling for this facility together with the judiciary staff. So if we get a representative there, Honorable Sitati, our wait might not be as long as it has been in the past. And this also includes the car loans, the car loan facility that we have. So if we get our representative, I think all these things will be a thing of the past. And that representative, Honorable Sitati, is me. Please vote for me and I will work on all this, push for this to happen, because once our representative is there, then we will get the priority.
Also on my follow-up question.
Yes, Kane.
We have seen some of our colleagues who have been having disciplinary issues being told to wait in the court for almost 3 years before their issues are being resolved. And
Yes.
we have seen some of the judgments being passed in the labor court, whereby the government is losing a lot of money in doing compensation to
Yes.
the JAO who have been either dismissed unfairly or terminations unfairly.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to have a timeline for
Yes.
addressing these complaints which are being raised against judicial officers.
Yes.
Instead of having all of us having these disciplinary issues, have to wait for 3 years or 4 years, or wait indefinitely to have our issues being resolved.
Yes.
I think that's an issue which we need to address as a JSC commissioner, so that we can at least feel comfortable that when I have an issue, I know
Yes.
that I have a definite period of having the issue being resolved, so that I know either to look for another job instead of or wait for my fate from the JSC, because it's really unfair for someone to be in the court for 3 years, then you're told
Yes.
that we cannot allow you to work for us. So I think that's an issue which needs to be addressed also.
Yes, it is true that some of our colleagues, and you could be the one there tomorrow, are waiting for too long for their issues to be resolved. Why do I talk about in-house disputes resolution mechanism on my manifesto? Because some of the things that we are going through disciplinary action for are actually things that would have been sorted out at the station level, leave alone even head of station, even like among peers, where you and your colleagues are able to sit down and discuss something, maybe an issue that has risen at length. Some of them are actually things that should not even have gone to the level of the JSC, because we have heads of stations. And if a head of station was to sit down, and I say some because there are some that are beyond, but I know that most of these issues that we have going ahead to the JSC are issues that can be solved or resolved at the station level. And that would mean that we need to have that in-house mechanism and take it very seriously. And maybe then we also need to have those timelines so that if it gets to the JSC, then let me know that probably within the next 3 months, I will get a response or a decision, so that I know whether I am moving out or whether I'm coming back to work and moving on with my life. One more.
Sorry, hello.
Yes.
A follow-up also on Kane's question, huh?
Yes, Nelly, yes.
Mine was towards JSC, and especially when you're going for interviews.
Mm-hmm.
so that you find you addressed, a complaint was addressed when you're, let's say we start from the lowest, like an RM, but
Yes.
all the way until your chief, the same issue keeps on arising.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and somebody also side chatted me on a similar issue. And this was about when you go for the interviews and then you're embarrassed, probably by your own representative. Well, Nelly, I would want to say this. As long as you have a representative who cares about you, a representative who is accountable, a representative who knows that Nelly is coming for this interview and there's this issue, I believe that is something that can be dealt with by that representative at that point in time. And then again, when we talk about the aspect of the complaints and the timelines, we should also look into this issue that one complaint should not be used against a judicial officer over, time and time again. I will probably need time on the aspect of a past complaint following you from RM all the way to SPM. I will be able to respond in detail in about 1 week's time. Nelly, kindly, if you give me kind of time, I'll be able to respond to you on a one-on-one basis, and I will also be able to respond on my WhatsApp wall.
Yes, my question is this.
Yes.
Of all the things you have promised, things you have pledged.
Yes.
Assume you join the commission, then your fellow commissioners do not agree with all the ideas you've come up with.
Yes.
And the ones you intend to have implemented.
Yes.
An example will be the promotions without interviews.
Yes.
It is an issue that has been raised by all the candidates, I would say so.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking it's something that will definitely come up when one of you finally joins the commission.
Yes.
How will you take it when your fellow commissioners do not agree with you on a particular idea that you really want to be adopted and implemented? How will you take that?
This is about influence. It's about collaboration until a consensus is reached. I will not chest thump. I will not tell you that I am going there and tomorrow I will deliver. No. I have to talk to them as my fellow commissioners, persuade, lobby, use the networks that I might have, and part of the networks, by the way, is ourselves as colleagues, and finally get them to reach a consensus. If I go there chest thumping and mine is just one vote, they can decide to ignore you, and there's nothing you'll do about it. And remember, we talked about accessibility, transparency. Stella talked about opaque representation. Once I go there and they're not agreeing, I will continue persuading and lobbying. But in the meantime, I'll come back and tell you, this is what we've discussed. This is how far we have reached. And you, as the people who send me there as a representative, might have other, further, and better ways of maybe getting them to the table to really understand what we are going through. And again, on that basis, especially when maybe you bring forth an issue, put it on the table and nobody agrees with you, I have this plan that as a commissioner, I intend to just set one day aside, one day of the month, where I will be talking to JO, whether on private, those personal issues, or issues that maybe we have talked about and nothing has been forthcoming. So as a commissioner, it is not about chest thumping, it is about influencing, collaborating, and just persuading. And again, a good leader knows when to persuade, when to push, and when to try to influence, and when to network to get their agenda, given the kind of attention that they deserve.
we have been having issues with the station vehicles, especially for some,
Yes.
for these stations in hardship
Yes.
areas. Even if you have a personal vehicle, either the roads or the insecurity in the area
Yes.
will prevent you from using your vehicle because you'll be too easy a target, depending with the work you do.
Yes.
What would your suggestion be as to the aspect of station vehicles in this outpost, so to speak? Secondly,
Yes.
the aspect, what is your take on the issues of transfers? I'm sure there must be a policy, I'm not sure, but what is your take on the aspect of transfers? How often should they come? And what factors should be taken into consideration? Lastly, and this is a personally heard of. It is rarely raised, but I wish to raise it now. We are always big on fair administrative practices.
Sorry, I didn't get that bit.
We are big on fair administrative practices.
Yes.
But you will find in very few stations, these are complaints I've had from very few people, RMs are not being given, for instance, a chance to take pleas, or there is no rotation of plea taking in some stations.
Yes.
Or we are having, probably you're given, in civil matters, you're given a few files. So
Yes.
you end up being, running down for the next 3 years, and when you go for interviews, you're asked a question on plea taking and you're blank because this is something you've not done. It's a complaint I've heard of, and I'd like you to address it. Thank you.
Pascal, you talked about hardship areas, station motor vehicles, roads, and insecurity, and you asked me for suggestions on the same. And you also asked on my take on transfer, how long one should stay in a station. I spoke to one of you last week, and he was telling me about being in a hardship area, and the vehicle has broken down. The neighboring station's vehicle has broken down. And so the JOs are having to take a bus to maybe, let's say, to Nairobi to visit with family. And of course, then this now brings in the aspect of insecurity, because you're taking a bus with the same people who you have just been serving in court, and probably a relative of someone you have just sentenced to some time in prison. As a representative, I would urge that each station submits whatever it is they need in detail, and then follow up, because we have that channel. And most of us, I would want to say that if we followed the channels that are in place, for example, a vehicle has broken down, there is a process for that vehicle to get repaired and availed to the station. There's also the mortgages that we're talking about, but then again, what Pascal said is the hardship areas, because even if you have your own motor vehicle, you wouldn't want to use it on those roads because, again, the tear and wear. So as a station, just forward your unique problems, let them be followed up. And as a commissioner or as your representative, these are things we can sit and come up with on how to go, the way forward. Each station based on, each station with its own unique features. So if that is followed up by the head of station, then it is possible that it is resolved. And I will also ensure that I help you from any, you see, when you're in those hardship areas, there are also very many other government departments. And if we worked seamlessly with them, there's also a way the police would be able to give you a vehicle every once in a while when you need it. The assistant, the DO, the now what we call the assistant county commissioners, the national government offices that we have at grassroots level, as we go about sorting out our issue. So if then we have that cohesion or that working, that seamless network, that can be sorted out. Of course, I know this is, it's a long shot, but then it would mean that that is what we have to do. And as a representative, I would be able then to step in that sense and maybe talk to those other independent government departments, and we can have an arrangement on what happens, maybe certain days of the week. Maybe we can borrow the police vehicle. Maybe there are 2 judicial officers traveling to Nairobi. Wanaweza pelekwa kama mpaka Garissa, then maybe from there at least they can take the bus, but not all the way, let's say like from Hola to Nairobi. Because again, the same people you're riding with in that bus are the same people you're serving, and that means exposing you. Courts. We have stations like Kiambu where we have duty courts, and everybody is able to take plea, so that what they don't know, they can learn with time and they are able to catch up. And for me, this is important because when you look at an RM today, this is the SRM tomorrow. This is the CM like our Chief Edna tomorrow. So we have to work with them. And I would advocate for mentorship in all stations. That peer review mechanism where you sit down, maybe have a cup of tea and you talk and you're able to know that our RM had this issue, our SPM had this issue. And yes, slowly with time, these complaints will go away. But if we don't give it a chance, if we don't give the RMs a chance to even make that mistake so that they learn, then it will not happen. We have a policy, a transfer policy in place that's very clear, but in circumstances that are exceptional, those exceptions can be made. For example, maybe a JO who has a sick child and they are given a transfer to maybe a place or a county where that child can get constant and consistent medical attention. So our transfer policy is 3 years. So, but even before the 3 years, if something comes up, I believe in the past it has always been that you can bring it to the attention of the authorities and something is done about it. Maybe not to the exact station that you want, but to somewhere where there's that convenience, like if it's a sick child or a sick parent. Pascal, I think I've answered all your questions. Hopefully.
Yes, thank you.
Well, any other questions? You wanted to say something? There's a question or just an observation that Honorable Kane raised, and he talked about a system to recognize good work, because what is happening currently, it's only the LSK that sometimes thank us or that sometimes recognize and give an award, or maybe just the common mwananchi there. A good example is our very own Beryl. We have a director of talent in the judiciary. I don't know if we know that. We have a director of talent, and this director of talent, so far, okay, nothing has happened, because I'm sure some of us don't even know about that particular department. This director, together with Deepak, can work towards publishing, you know, just publishing a list of our outstanding officers and maybe what they have done to recognize them. If I am elected commissioner, I will make sure the Director of Talent Office gains its relevance, so that then, as I've said, if they work together with Deepak, they'll be able to publish the names of our exemplary colleagues. And also maybe we have a system of awarding, like maybe such an officer being taken for further training as an incentive, and that will even motivate the rest of us. I hope, Kane, that I have maybe not really answered, but contributed to what you said, because it was an observation. I will have a calendar where I will have a once in a month meeting for any issues that any of us might have, any issues that any of us might want addressed, or a group of us, or as a station, but just that one day when you know that you can be able to reach your representative at the JSC. Talking about security of tenure, this is my take, and as a representative, if I'm elected to that position, if our judges have security of tenure, Why are we not, as magistrates, having the same? Look at the kind of work we do. Look at the amount of work we do. What is the difference between us and the judges? And I'm just saying, with all due respect, that we need to have one in place. We need to have a security allowance, which, as we said earlier, it has been approved. There's a committee looking into it so that they give further advice and on implementation. The aspect of mortgages and grants, we have a loans committee. We have a loans committee, but we do not have a representative on that committee. As a representative, I would push to ensure that we have good vehicles, and in your good vehicle, you can have your own security arrangement. We don't necessarily need police officers or private, what are they called? Private security people to move around with us, but one can have their own security arrangement based on your own need. But again, as judicial officers, generally, that will go a long way for us. The aspect of trainings, maybe I also didn't come out very clearly on that one. One can go on training, one can travel for training. There is fully paid training, even if you were to take up your master's. There's also a calendar at JTI, and we are all, at least once in a while, supposed to select our, each to select their own area where they feel they need more training. Judges, this is now where maybe it's different for us, because judges have an advisory committee. This committee gives details to the JSC and the JTI on their needs. Why can't magistrates also have the same? As a representative, I will advocate for the same for magistrates, because we do the same kind of work. And if we have that kind of advisory committee, then I'm sure there will be a big difference in our trainings, because currently some of us say that there are those who are always traveling for training, and there are those who miss out. So if we have such a committee, it will be able to advise. I am also aware that some of you have been trying to access the webinar. Some of you have been trying to come to join us to register, and they've not been able. And I know that quite a number of seniors are here with us, and that is really appreciated. I will organize a similar webinar again, specifically this time for the RMs, though this was also specifically, but again, when our seniors join, it's also nice, because that means they're also concerned about our welfare. Nelly, I think she's left, she's no longer with us. I will push for a system whereby, and this system was there before we joined, where there was that automatic promotion from RM to SRM, and then from SRM to PM. And then now from PM, at least one can attend an interview. And this would be automatic, because currently, as it were, it's a bit demoralizing when for every step you have to keep on going for the interviews. And sometimes, as one of us said earlier on, one of our honorable colleagues, sometimes you even have a complaint that actually follows you from your RM level to when you're even an SPM. And again, it is easier for us to know that from RM to SRM to now up to PM, it's automatic, because there's no point of being an RM for 7 years. You know, you're either in the system or not. And if there's an issue, then it ought to be addressed. So as your representative, these are some of the things I will push for. Thank you very much, my honorable colleagues. As I conclude, I want to say this. One, I know I'm an influencer. I can influence. 2, I have the charisma. And 3, I have emotional intelligence that is required of a leader. I have social intelligence. Why am I saying all this? For me, these are attributes that will take us to where we want to be. These are attributes that will help us achieve that which we are advocating for in a representative. Thank you very much. God bless you. I will come around visiting I am so grateful. I don't take this participation for granted. Thank you so much. God bless you. God bless us all. Thank you.